We have to talk about the Shibarium burns, guys. This is absolutely insane what we're seeing right now with the Shiba Inu Shibarium burns. All right, we have this post from Lucy, who is the official marketing strategist for Shibarium Tech, or the Shibarium network. Now, they have some interesting insights into the Shibarium Shiba Inu burns, but there's some really kind of scary information that you guys need to know, so make sure you stay till the end of this video for that information. But first, let's dive into what Lucy said here. First of all, we need to use Shibarium. It won't burn Shib if you don't use it. That is true. The way that they are burning Shib is a percentage of the transaction fee, which is based on the volume and transactions coming through the network. Makes sense, right? Onboarding millions of people to Shibarium will take time and community effort. So we're getting a little bit of insight here. What is their target? Their target is to onboard millions of people into the Shibarium network. More information about burns will be revealed in the upcoming documentation. That's good to know, so we can expect to see more information about Shibarium burns hopefully within the next couple of weeks, but it has been clearly explained in the docs.shibarium.tech for the past 6 months. And this is something that I pointed out to you guys quite a few times. We're going to circle back to this in just a second, but here are the documents about the Shibarium burns. Again, we're going to circle back to that. Let's just finish this first. Now, can we expect higher fees? This is a big point that people have been wondering. What's going on with these low fees? They are so low right now that we're basically not burning any Shib. She goes ahead and says, of course, we can expect to see higher fees over the future. The more you use Shibarium, the higher the traffic, which drives up the gas fees. This is something that we've seen from this document. Again, that's been out for quite a while. A lot of people are overlooking this because they're looking at these volume right now. And again, we're going to look at that in just a second as well. But we can go ahead and see that this document outlines very clearly that there's a base fee that can fluctuate with each block, and it's influenced by the level of congestion in the network. Basically, the amount of transactions or amount of gas used per block. Specifically, if the previous block is close to being full, basically a ton of gas being used, the base fee will increase and vice versa. Now, what does this mean? What does this mean? Well, the base fee is so important when it comes to Shibarium burns, because the way that they're burning Shiba Inu is the base fee is going to be locked into a contract, and the priority fee is paid to validators. So you have base fee, priority fee. The base fee will be split 70% going to burns, 30% set aside to maintain the network. And they have details here about how they're going to be burning Shib. They're going to be taking the bone transaction fee, accumulating that up to $25,000, then taking that value and buying and burning Shib with it. But what people are seeing right now, people are going over these different blocks. By the way, there's this updated Explorer that you guys can go ahead and check out. Super helpful, great resource to actually check out. But you guys can see a transaction in a block, 13 transactions. A lot of them are like 5, 6, 7 transactions per block, and a block is every 5 seconds. And that's not a lot, right? Because we can see the gas used, for example, it's only about 3.5 million out of the 20 million potential gas being used. But this is basically 17% of what the block could handle. That's what that math comes out to be. But what's interesting to note here, guys, is that this is just with 13 transactions. So basically, if we were just rough math this out here, let's say we hit basically 150 transactions, you'd be using, in theory, 100% of the gas in a block. Now, this is designed to scale to thousands of transactions every single block. And the way that this happens is that the base fee per gas changes. So again, we have up to 20 million gas here, but this actually has a great insight for it. It shows the base fee per gas. You can see this is super small. This is, what is that, 1/1 billionth of a bone? That's basically nothing. And that's where people are getting upset, because they're seeing this base fee is so low, and then you're going to take 70% of that, and you're going to burn that. I mean, you're getting basically a billionth or a trillionth of a bone being burned with every transaction. That is nothing. People are super upset about that. But the key thing here is that as we get more transactions every single block, then that base fee per gas will increase. Now, the thing that we don't know, though, that's not outlined in this document is, how does that change? How does the base fee adjust? Is it doubling every time the block gets close to full? Is it tripling? Is it 5xing? How is this going to change? Because when we go, is it going to go exponentially increase? Is it going to linearly increase? There's so many unknown variables here where this could potentially go up to being like 0.1 bone as a base fee. You could end up dropping all these zeros and go down to 0.01 bone per base fee. That's something that's possible if we have an exponential increase. The thing is, we just simply don't know. And that's what's kind of scary, is we still don't have that information. How does this adjust? How is this going to change? So we can model out and see, well, if we get 1,000 transactions per block, what does that do to the base fee? What does that do to the burns? We simply don't know. However, I believe there's a little bit of hope for 2 main reasons. Make sure you guys stay to hear number 2, because I think it's really important that it's something really important that people are overlooking. Number one, we can see this post from Satoshi basically just over a year ago. Says, I occasionally get messages like, bro, burn the entire supply of Shib. So I sat down with this person to figure out it would cost billions to burn Shib to get a truly worth-changing, significant rise in price. So for them to actually burn enough Shib to have an impact on the price, it would cost significant amounts of money, billions of dollars. And to do so, we have implemented a plan like the one you are seeing. It's funny, we're working on that, but getting and burning billions of dollars is no easy task. And so it sounds like they have this plan to try and accomplish this, to try and burn significant amounts of Shiba Inu over time. And this, I think, kind of coincides with the fact of how this base fee is actually split out. And this is point number two. This is where we can kind of use some logical reasoning here to determine what is this base fee potentially going to look like in the future. Because when they sat down and they built the Shibarium network, they would have realized, okay, we need X dollars for infrastructure, right? They have priority fee, which goes to validators. So the validators for validating transactions get the priority fee, but there's infrastructure costs. It's something that we've been seeing for the past couple of days. The Shibarium scaling updates we've been talking about on this channel, which you guys should definitely check out if you're not already. But those different updates talked about all the volume they've been getting, hundreds of millions of requests coming into their server, which costs money. They have to spend tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars every single month to run that backend infrastructure. That's not validators doing that. Validators validate the blockchain, but all the user interface, all that stuff, they have to pay for that cost. And what happens is with that base fee, 70% goes to burn. What people are forgetting is 30% is set aside to maintain the network. That's going to be all the infrastructure expenses, all of the network upgrades, all those costs in theory should be covered by this 30%. So when they sat down, they built out the formula. They would have gone, okay, we need, for example, where I'm just going to throw out numbers here as an example. We need $100,000 to cover our monthly expenses. Therefore, what we need to do is set this base fee so that we can expect to see maybe at 1 million transactions a day, we can end up getting that happening. We can end up earning $100,000 a month. They'd figure out that kind of math, and then they'd go ahead and for us to see that, then we could see, well, if they're going to try and get 100,000 a month, the burn is 70%. That percentage that goes towards their fees is 30%. That means that the burn is just over double that. So in theory, the burn should be something like $220,000, $230,000 every single month. And so it really comes down to a few key questions that you have to ask yourself. One, do you think that they're going to try and burn a ton of Shib? Do you think they genuinely want to burn a ton of Shib and support the Shib army? Two, do you think that they want to cover their expenses? For example, again, this 30% goes to cover their expenses. Do you think that they figured out a formula that would cover their expenses? Or do you think that they're banking on another strategy? For example, the price of Bone increasing. Bone is so critical to the Shibarium network. All your transaction fees are on Bone. So it's possible, this is a possibility, guys, is that they could possibly be banking on the price of Bone going up. Maybe they hold a ton of Bone, and then so instead they'll actually sell off Bone to cover the fees and go that way. They expect the Bone price to skyrocket, and then they can sell the Bone and cover the expenses that way instead of getting their expenses covered from the fees coming through the network. That is a possibility. So the question is, which way do you think they're going to go? Do you think they're going to try and go the more sustainable route of make sure that base fee can cover their expenses? Or do you think that they're going to go the route of trying to buy or having a large bag of Bone, selling that off to cover the fees that way? It's really a question of what's going to happen. We simply don't know the answer. What we do know is that these burns right now are so low. Again, we can look at these burns for this transaction as an example, basically 1/1 billionth of a Bone being burned every single transaction. And yes, we are starting to see a nice influx of transactions. When we go over the dashboard, we can see these daily transaction numbers. We're basically averaging close to 100,000 transactions a day. So sure, 100,000 times 1/1 billionth. Every couple days you'll get a Bone. I mean, it's not great. It's nowhere near where it probably should be. And this is where we need to look forward to seeing what is this base fee going to adjust towards in the future as these blocks start to get more volume coming through. Again, you can see these different transactions, 5 transactions that block, 7 in that, 6 in that, very, very low number of transactions per block. So what is this going to look like in the future? That's the thing that we don't know, but it does seem like the Shibarium founders of the Shibarium team thinks that in the future there's going to be a lot of burns. So maybe in the future, maybe we just need to be patient. Something that they've been saying is we need to be patient, which I get what they're coming from, but I don't like that they're not explaining to us how this base fee is going to change. Because again, if we can model it, if they give us the formula, every time the block hits 80% being full, then the base fee is going to adjust by 2x. If they gave us some kind of formula like that, then we could go ahead and figure out at, again, 1 million transactions a day, at 10 million transactions a day, we got to figure out the math as to what this is going to look like for the base fee. And then we could see the vision. Right now, people are having trouble seeing the vision, but it does seem like Shiba Inu, the SHIB price, could see some interesting spike in prices as we get the burns happening. And this article really dives into a little bit more about what Lucy posted. You guys can go ahead and check out this article if you want, but this goes through what we talked about, how we need the Shibarium to actually be utilized. The Shibarium network needs to be utilized for us to see these SHIB burns actually be significant. Because again, right now, they are nothing. The SHIB burns are nothing. There's nothing to get excited about right now for the SHIB burns, but we can still hold out for, we can still have hope for, is that in the future, this base fee is going to be adjusted up dramatically to actually be able to cover the cost of the network and be burning hundreds of thousands of dollars of Shiba Inu every single month, if not millions of dollars every single month. And so you might be wondering, how will we know? When will we know what is going to be happening for this? Well, again, first of all, we have to wait for them to actually give us this update in the upcoming documentation. They mentioned, again, how we're going to learn more about burns. We have to wait for that update. We also have to wait for all these projects to actually get onboarded into the Shibarium network. Right now, we're starting to see some different projects coming into the Shibarium network. We can actually see these different number of contracts. Right now, we're at 8,000 different contracts on the Shibarium network, and contracts are things like smart contracts, token contracts, all these different contracts come together to form an ecosystem where you can have different dApps, utilities, casinos, exchanges, all these different things take multiple different contracts, maybe 10 to 100 different contracts per each one of these things. So we're seeing a lot of different projects onboarding onto Shibarium, which is going to increase the amount of volume we see and bring in more wallets. Because right now, we're just over 1.1 million total addresses on the Shibarium network and just past 1 million total transactions. So we're starting to see some progress. It's just a lot slower than a lot of us had hoped. We had hoped to see basically a few million different wallet addresses and tens of millions of transactions coming in within these first couple days. Fortunately, we're not seeing that. So we're probably gonna have to wait over time as these projects build out and people have a reason to utilize the Shibarium network. So overall, I'm still hopeful for these burns in the future, but right now things look ugly. I gotta be honest with you. Things do not look great. The numbers we're seeing right now are so low, and we don't have any clear vision as to how these numbers are going to change over time. Because even if this goes up to half of what it is right now, and you still have, let's say, 4 or 5 zeros in front of this, you're still looking at such a small amount of bone being burned every single day, or bone that can be converted into SHIB to be burned every single day. It's not really going to make an impact. We need this to be basically 1 or 2 zeros. That's it before the burn fee. That's what we need to be seeing for a significant amount of SHIB to be burned. And it still would be extremely affordable. You're talking 1 to 3 cents for a transaction on the network. That is so affordable for so many people to do massive numbers of transactions. That's something that we should probably look forward to in the future, and hopefully we can see that. If you guys want to learn how to actually utilize Shibarium and help contribute to the Shiba Inu burns, make sure you go ahead and check out this video up here, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.